Over the last 10 years of being a therapist, I've blended two types of therapy. One is mindfulness-based counseling. And then the second thing that I've blended that with is all of my training in over 2 decades of spirituality, especially in the non-dual traditions. And so people oftentimes ask me, well, what is non-dual therapy? What is mindfulness-based therapy? And the first thing that we start with is most therapists, they look at you, almost as if you're broken, that there's something wrong with you. But if we truly look at non-duality, if we truly look at what it means to be human and divine in this world, we start with a radically different assumption, or rather the knowledge. We start with the fact that who you are in your essence is perfect, is absolutely perfect. We start with the fact that everything you need is within you. Everything. And so most individuals who come to me, they're struggling with something within their humanity, or they've had a radical experience, within their divinity, where they get a flash of insight, or an awakening experience, or a true non-dual awakening, where they wake up to this fact that, my God, who and what I am is spacious, is peaceful, is compassionate, is loving. And then how do these two worlds meet, of being human and being divine? And so the first tenet of, say, non-dual therapy is that you are perfect in your essence, that there's something within you which hasn't been harmed. Whereas, say, most therapies, they just focus on healing that which is human. But for me, one of the things that I discovered is healing becomes much more powerful if we first realize that who and what we are is absolutely good, is innately divine, is pure, is whole, is complete. So when you wake up to this fact, when you start with this truth that who and what I am is whole, is complete, is pure, is loving, then you start from this place of ultimate completion. And so instead of being broken and trying to work on yourself and have a therapist be this intermediary, which is how most therapy works, we work with this direct experience. Not just like a mental knowledge, but the direct experience that who and what you are, like right here, right now, is good, that there's something pure in your heart. And so we deepen into that, and from that place we begin to work with our humanity. And so, for example, most therapies, they work with building up the self-image. And if you have a healthy, psychologically healthy ego, well, then you're going to experience, in a sense, psychological happiness. But in the way that I work, we try to get in touch with, what the great masters from all the great wisdom traditions have taught us for thousands of years, that true inner peace, true happiness is within, first and foremost. Jesus said it with this phrase of, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all else will be given unto thee. So seek first to discover this divinity. And so when I work with an individual, we work with going inward, finding this place of peace, finding this place of strength. And then from this place of strength, then maybe we begin to work with those aspects of our egoic nature which are struggling, which are hurting, which are wounded, aspects of our self-image that need to be healed. In typical spirituality, they tend to forget about the world of psychology. But when we forget about the world of psychology and we just try to rest as awareness, or rest as this space of inner beauty that we are, it's very difficult, because we have this humanity that will always be anxious or insecure or struggling. And so the way I work with an individual is I work with bringing these two worlds together. We wake up to our divinity, and then from this divinity we embrace, we love, we heal all those broken, argumentative, angry, sad, jealous, enraged, insecure aspects of our humanity. When we embrace them fully there's this wonderful thing that happens. When we embrace the ego fully, the ego, instead of acting like a little child that's hurt and wounded, the ego grows up and it integrates. And then it becomes this fit vehicle for our divinity. A fit vehicle. So a lot of people ask, well, what do you mean by that, Craig? Well, it's like if you have a very strong, healthy, egoic nature, and you are awake to your divinity, then you can experience true happiness in the world, true freedom, true peace. Instead of your spirituality just being this eternal war between, waking up to your divinity and also struggling with your humanity, there's no longer a war there. Your mind becomes quite silent. The ego becomes quite silent when you know who and what you truly are. The ego becomes silent when it's not struggling and fighting with itself. Sometimes I'll meet with someone and they'll have an internal judge, fighting with another judge, and then a critic, and then this angry part, and this feeling of being unworthy. And then all these places, all these voices in our head argue with each other. But when you wake up to your true nature, when you find this place of divinity, and you let that divinity flood and embrace the critic, what you find is the critic begins to settle down. He says, oh, there's safety and security within me, so I don't have to be critical. The place that feels unworthy, it feels safe and secure. So the feelings of unworthiness, they dissolve. The feeling of being angry or disempowered, that dissolves, and it aligns with true power, true strength, that true backbone. In Zen they talk about this experience of having a strong back and an open heart. And when we bring these two worlds together, then we can manifest our truth, we can manifest our highest in the world. And so whereas, most teachings in spirituality see the ego as something bad. But, through the work of psychology and through the work of science, we've discovered that this is an evolutionary world. That everything in the world has some level of truth to it. And so we can operate from a lower level of evolution, or we can work from a higher level. We can live from a higher level. And so the invitation here is connecting with those higher levels of divinity and allowing those higher levels to embrace the lower levels. As you embrace the lower levels, like say something like anger will begin to transform into power. As you embrace judgment or criticism, the sense of like being judgmental, as we embrace it, that turns into wisdom, like a discerning wisdom that knows right from wrong, good from bad, what the Buddha called skillful or unskillful. And so if we see clearly, the ego is not something bad. It's just a lower level operating system. And so the further we walk along the path, the deeper we can go into our divinity, the deeper we can open to our divinity. And then those lower levels can grow up and they can integrate in a healthy manner. See, God didn't make anything in this world by mistake. The ego's not a mistake. Our humanity's not a mistake. Our anger, our jealousy, our rage, our sadness, our heartache is not a mistake. When you work with sadness, you discover tenderness and compassion. And tenderness and compassion is a quality of essence. It's a quality of your true nature. And so within the context of non-dual therapy and mindfulness-based counseling, it's this context of stepping back from your life. But you're not stepping back into a critical, cold place of observing your life, like in a Freudian way. You're stepping back into your heart, into your innate goodness. And from this place, you're meeting your humanity with love. As you do so, evolution happens, you grow, you transform pain into goodness, into light. You grow up, you become more spiritually mature, and you begin to manifest your highest instead of doing what most people do, is they live in an unconscious way where they manifest their lowest. And so sometimes people ask me, well, do you have to be a spiritually oriented person? Do you have to Do I have to be a meditator or this or that? And I say, no, I work with anybody and everyone. And I'll meet you just wherever you're at your level of evolution. So it doesn't matter if you're, an incredible spiritual teacher, and I've worked with many, or a yoga teacher, a counselor, a healer, a therapist. I train many therapists in this approach that I do, and work with many in healing, these inner shadows or inner demons. Or if you're someone who has no understanding of spirituality, no relationship with your true nature. And so the invitation here is, if you do want to work with me, I encourage you to reach out to me, send me an email. And of course include, if you're not in Colorado, send me your time zone and your Skype name. And we'll find a way to get together and to connect. So I look forward to meeting you, and thank you for joining me today and for your interest in my work.